Hello, I'm Executive Director John Roser here at SCTV, and welcome to another episode of Statehouse Matters with Jim Cantwell.
Hey,
hello,
John.
Jim.
John, thanks for having me again.
Very welcome. Pleasure as always to have you here. There's lots to talk about, lots on the table, literally and figuratively. Let's start with the coastal erosion.
Sure.
There's a lot going on here in Scituate and in Marshfield. Lots of people involved. What's going on right now in terms of the committee and some of the progress?
Perfect. And we just talked after. By the way, Liz Charlton, our executive producer here for the show,
That's right.
just met with me. We were down with a crew looking about some of the work that's being done, trying to help Scituate and Marshfield, and frankly all of our coastal communities with coastal erosion. 2 years ago, John, you had me on the show and we talked about how I was pleased that legislation I co-authored with a Republican state senator, Bruce Tarr, had passed. It created a coastal erosion commission, and that they were charged to try to review all up and down the coast what's happening historically to our region, first of all, to detail what's going on with erosion, and then secondly come up with some ideas at a statewide level of what we should work on. Thrilled to announce that work of the Coastal Erosion Commission is done, and a few of the suggestions that we're working hard on, one is a thing called sand mining. So areas here in Scituate that have lost tremendous amounts of sand, a wonderful program I want to touch upon in a moment that was put on just last Thursday night by our Scituate selectmen with Nancy Durfee running it, and I want to list everyone working on it, talked about the loss of sand. So one of the recommendations of the statewide erosion commission was that we should look at regulatory changes. On one procedure, I want to do sand mining, which is what they do already, John. You know it.
Right.
Down in Florida and North Carolina, they have a vessel that's about a mile offshore. It will suck up sand and shoot it right back up. They do a tube, shoots it right back up onto the beach, and they can do it all up and down the coast just to replenish the sand that we've been losing naturally.
That's right.
It's important for tourism. It's important just for quality of life. It's really important to help us with all of our preventive measures for seawalls to riprap and the like. If you have more sand, it's going to prevent damage to our homes. So I'm thrilled that that's one thing we're working hard on. It's not without controversy, and it's something it will have to change state procedures, but it's one of the recommendations that we want to bring forward. A second is a program that Fred Dorr, a teacher here from Scituate, who taught my son in science many years ago, he's promoting a thing called wave attenuation devices,
right,
which are they look like little triangles that they'd be just maybe 30 yards off, 40 yards off the coast, maybe a little bit more. But what they do is they break the ferocity of waves. So that's the first aspect. They break down the tremendous energy that comes. It also traps the sand right behind them. So it's a way to make sure that if we do the sand mining and the wads, we'll be able to protect our beaches, hopefully for generations to come. So that's where it was a little dressed down today. We've just been down along Peggotty Beach, and we went down to Hummerock, looking at these areas where we want to try to help. Now the exciting thing for the work that our town has done, Nancy Durfee is one of those just special people that we have so many here in town. She wrote a grant that just got funded a little over a year ago. It's a $180,000 grant, Coastal Community Resilience Grant, and that allowed our town first in the state to be doing this kind of work, to identify, first of all, with the funds, they were looking historical damage from numerous storms. They were looking at what future challenges we'll have to areas of town, and then they came up with criteria that they'll prioritize which areas in town will we try to work on. I wanted to thank Nancy, and the Scituate Selectmen hosted this last Thursday night. About 100 people came, but our professional staff, I know it's difficult because all of us, I get to be very impatient, want things like solved the next day. These people are doing so much work. Trish Francesi was doing she was at this proposal, this program. Neil Duggan, who's our zoning officer, Kevin Cafferty running the DPW, John Murphy, the fire chief, Mike Stewart, the police chief, Patrick Gallivan from the Conservation Commission, Laura Harbottle, the DPW. Everybody came together. So we said, this is the challenge of our generation, of dealing with some of the debates over sea level rise. People say, what's causing it? I don't care. I just know we're seeing some sea level rise. We're seeing more frequent storms. We need to have a plan for how we can protect our citizens, protect our property, protect public life. And Scituate really is leading across the state. So I wanted to make sure to get in and thank you that there is another program June 7th that is the follow-up to this. It'll be here, right, I believe, right here at the high school. People should come to see the great work because, as I announced that night, because Scituate officials are doing so much to help educate me, here's what we've done at the state level. A few years ago, we passed legislation, one that it makes it easier for cities and towns to borrow for seawalls. It used to be that you'd have to do it and pay it back within 5 years. Really made it difficult for bonding abilities for towns, so we extended that out for the life of a seawall, at least to 30 years. The most important thing we did, which was legislation I co-wrote, was to pass a dam and seawall revolving fund. $20 million for seawalls, $12 million of that has come to Scituate and Marshall just in the last 2 years. Wow. That's when people down on the coast are seeing a lot of work. We know how important it is, John, but you and I talked in past programs. Just to have one small seawall collapse a few years ago caused damage to 100 homes here in Scituate. We had 2 of them burned to the ground. We know how important these seawalls are, and I'm thrilled the partnership of Scituate leaders, who I just mentioned, and myself, with legislation we passed, brought $12 million total to our district. We got $100 million in an environmental bond. That's at the state level, and towns like Scituate leading the effort on coastal resiliency will be able to get more funds as we're putting together our Bible for our plan in the future, what will be done. We passed legislation to require the Department of Conservation and Recreation to come up with a plan for all up and down the coast. And this erosion commission that we just started with was created out of this. So many great things happening for our coastline. I hope this year you're going to see a major project for Fourth Cliff that we've already announced securing funding for it. We just have to get it released. What happens in the state is legislators get the funding, and then it's up to the governor to the timetable to release it. But I'm cautiously optimistic we're going to dredge the South River, take lots of that material and put it right up along Hummerock Beach to protect a lot of our homes in that area. So very exciting things going on. I'm so pleased to come back to report on it.
All good, and we're big Nancy Durfee fans here.
She's the best.
She's the best, and you can find out more about what Nancy does on the website, the town website, and her committee, and a lot of what's going on in her department as well.
That's right.
So it's coming up on this nice weather.
Yeah.
It's coming soon, which brings us to our second topic, which is Lyme disease.
That's right.
I know you have some experience there.
That I do.
Is anything going on in the news for Lyme disease?
There is, and we touched upon it in the past program that 3 years ago, I was out with the Scouts. My son's a Scout, and I make sure to come to all of our Scituate Scouting events as well when they have Eagle Scouts announced. And I was bitten by a tick. 3 days later, I had a temperature of 102 degrees, which I just thought I had the flu, but I was driving to a location with my son, and I totally forgot where I was, totally forgot where I was going. I didn't realize something was going on, so I made my way to the hospital, and they found I had, in the back of my leg, had a bullseye. I was lucky that they identified that I had Lyme disease because I was able to be treated. There are many, many people in the United States who 300,000 get infected every year that are known cases. By the CDC says 300,000 cases, but we think 4 times as many people are bitten, just don't even realize it. Yeah. And it can bring disastrous effects to folks. I was on a program called Greater Boston this week with Jim Browder.
Yeah, I know Jim.
Yeah, a wonderful guy. And a woman here from Scituate who is a Lyme disease person who has been bitten, who's been leading issues. Stacey Hayes Gear is her name.
Right.
She had been invited, and I guess they heard of my work. So here are the things that we discussed about Lyme disease. First of all, we live in the most beautiful area of the state. We have to go outside.
Right.
It would, for us, I don't want people to get scared. It's about being tick smart. So there are some things we can do, everyday issues when we're going outside. One, it's an easy thing just to spray the typical off that we use. Any kind of regular bug spray can keep ticks away. Wearing light clothing so you'll be able to see ticks. Look on yourself as you come back. If you're out walking the dog, if you're going down, even beach grass, sometimes they can be in. Those are easy prevention things that we can do. The second thing we can do at our homes is we can tick-proof our backyards. There's some simple solutions about what you can do between trees that are approaching your yard, just doing some mulch that could be in the back that keeps ticks from coming away. Making sure you don't have plants. I didn't realize this. My wife is wonderful. We have all kinds of nice plants in the back, but there are some that attract deer. so that they say you have to look for other types of things that
Right.
the deer won't eat. There is, I have a website that people can look for how to do a tick-safe zone for your home. There are two of them. One is just massdepartmentofpublichealth.org.
Right.
Has a whole bunch of them. Those are things that we can do that are the immediate things just for preventing tick bites. The other is there's a gap in funding. John, we spend $10 million in Massachusetts, warranted funds, but $10 million gets spent to get rid of mosquitoes. Very important. We don't want EEE. We want to make sure we can go outside. But we only spend $60,000 a year trying to prevent tick bites. So I'm working hard to address the inequality in that budget so that we're able to make sure we do more in public awareness. The third thing we're working on, it's more of a federal issue, but we're pushing up, is to see if the Center for Disease Control can have more funding for immunization. They have a shot that can be done for animals that prevent dogs from getting Lyme disease. There was one that was approved for humans, and apparently there were some side effects from it. There's a controversy of whether or not, frankly, most of the literature we've read, it actually was safe. But we're working we want to get that perfected so that people can immunize themselves. And the final issue is that I'm really proud of it. We just passed legislation that David Linsky is a good friend of mine, a state representative. He championed the bill. I'm a co-sponsor of it, but it's a bill that requires insurance companies to be able to pay for the treatment if someone has been bitten. Currently, insurance companies have to pay for doxycycline, but it's only 2 levels of treatment, maybe 28 days. People with chronic Lyme, there are people, John, it is just...
it's a nightmare.
It is. It's causing so many neurological issues and other issues. So we want, as in everything I do, there's controversy, but it's something that's so important to help people who have chronic Lyme disease to make sure that they have access to treatment through their insurance. I'm proud we just passed that in the House, and we're looking to make sure that we can bring relief for many people with the bill, hopefully this year.
Great. And you can find out more info about that. We have a PSA about Lyme disease
as well. I need to link that to my website.
Yeah, we work with the Board of Health here in Situate.
Yes.
Jen at the Board of Health is very active in promoting awareness about Lyme disease and about tick bites. So we have all that on our YouTube channel, and you can check that out there.
Fantastic.
There's another issue here that I feel very strongly about, and I know that you've been working very hard dealing with, which is suicide prevention.
Right.
And we've done some things here at SCTV, recorded some talks, and those are all available on our YouTube channel as well. But what's happening with suicide prevention here in Situate?
One of the things that every one of us in our lifetime can talk about someone that we know of, either a direct family member or extended family member who sadly has taken their life. And I had one of my best friends at Marshfield High School who was the valedictorian of our high school class, #1 in our class, went to Princeton University, was a great athlete, was in the military. He had just been married 2 years. He and Dorothy, and they had adopted a child. It was at the height of his professional and personal success. And being in the military, had been sent to Iraq 2 times, time and again, was away from his home for 2 straight years, was being sent a 3rd time, and just the feelings overwhelming, he took his life. And it's something that troubled me so much, because this was someone who I'm very, very close to, and I wish that we had just had the opportunity to speak. So out of that, I know we've been hearing from professionals about the fact one of the things we need to do is to talk more about reducing stigma for any kind of behavioral health issue. We've talked about it before with substance abuse. In this case, it's for behavioral health, which relate to depression. At any given time in the United States, 1 in 4 Americans are experiencing some kind of behavioral health symptom that could be diagnosed. Could be depression, there's eating disorders, there are substance abuse disorders, all those matters. And I'm here to tell people that it's okay to talk about it. The second is that prevention works. By talking about it, identifying some of the symptoms that someone could be in distress to help them, that's very important. Asking for help is absolutely okay, and that we have great groups here in Situate on the South Shore, loving groups that will be out there to help you. And some of them, the South Shore Youth Health Connector, the Plymouth County Suicide Prevention Coalition, the Situate and Marshfield Suicide Prevention Coalition, myself. We've all come together. We're hosting a program on May 16th at 7:30 p.m. Right here at our Situate Mill Wharf Theaters. Brett Hardy, Michelle Hardy, dear friends. Also, Brett was from Marshall High School. But we're hosting a film called You Are Not Alone. It's with the Samaritans. It goes through all these ways that we can all be able to address behavioral health issues that are in our lives, how we can identify if a loved one or anyone that we come into contact may be going through a tough circumstance, how we can detect that problem, persuade them to be able to get help and refer them. It's a wonderful movie. We want everyone, it's free. We'd love everyone to come Monday, May 16th, 7:30 p.m. at the Mill Wharf Plaza.
Great. And we'll have some information about that up on our...
Oh, yeah. And you do. And by the way, and you already had before, but the phone number, if someone is in distress, the phone number is 877-870-4673. Our website is SamaritansHope.org. If we could just put that below as we're talking, just so people are seeing it just as a way that they can turn and to be able to get help.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jim. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, thank you so much.
And I'm Executive Director John Roser, and that is another episode of Statehouse Matters. We want to thank our executive producer, Liz Charlton, and everyone here at SCTV. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.